Perhaps no other issue demanded a larger spotlight than U.S.-Mexico border relations during the 2016 election. And today's pilot, Civil Unrest, explores the powder-keg world of border life. So don't move a muscle.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unproduced Table Read here on the Popcorn Talk Network. For those tuning in for the first time, this is a show where we read Hollywood's hottest unproduced pilots and features. And as you guys heard from the top, we're reading a wonderful, kind of exciting, tense domestic thriller called Civil Unrest, written by Jeff Perreca, who we're so excited to have in studio. Jeff, thank you for being here today.
For having me.
You're so welcome. We'll get more into your kind of intro and bio before we start the read. But in the meantime, guys, my name is Jeff Graham. If you want to find me online, you can do so at Jeffrey C. Graham. For those tuning in for the first time, I think I already said it, but this is a show where we read amazing pilots and features, and I'm really excited about today's show. As I mentioned, we have a group of amazing actors in here to accompany our read, so I would love for you guys to also introduce yourselves and who you'll be reading today during the show.
Hi guys, I'm Adrienne Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrienne Snow, and I'll be reading for Clara, reporter Susie, and Trish.
What's up, everybody? I'm Timothy Michael. You can find me everywhere at I am Timothy Mike. Today I will be reading Abel Friedman.
Hey guys, Mike Kalinowski here. Find me there at Mike Kalinowski. Today I am Walkie Chatter, John Cade, Hayden, Anchor, and Pundit 3.
Hey, I'm Joe Sanfilippo. You can find me at Joe Filippo. I'll be reading Colton, Hawk, David Riggs, Flag Bearer, and then a whole bunch of other ones that don't matter.
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Kaufman. I will be reading mainly Bo and Lewis, but also a lot of other characters that I'm gonna dive into.
Awesome. Guys, I'm so excited to have you guys, and I'm very excited about this script. As I mentioned, y'all, it's written by a wonderful writer named Jeff Perreca. Jeff has had a lot of success. He optioned a comedic action script called Innocent Weapon, and he recently wrote a script called Death of an American President that is a feature. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool, which was a finalist in the Fresh Voices screenplay contest. Most recently, this script, Civil Unrest, was actually a finalist in the ATX Television 2017 Pitch Festival, where we featured a lot of other scripts on this show that also placed in that. Ramona, most recently, was another script that placed in that festival. So, Jeff, thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very
Absolutely.
excited.
We're very excited, too. What I would love to do now is kind of hear a 30-second to 1-minute intro kind of about this script and give our listeners some context just before we dive right in.
Yeah, sure. You know, this script was kind of, as we were talking, written well before, ironically, the 2016 election, and it's kind of become more and more relevant. But really what piqued my interest was, as you're saying, what's going on between the U.S.-Mexico border and, you know, these kind of militia groups that have taken it upon themselves to patrol it. Mm-hmm. And really, what does that mean in terms of our laws, in terms of who we are as a country? And from a character perspective, who are these people? Why do they have these kind of perspectives? And if that gets challenged, really what would happen in this country?
Yeah. The militia group in this script is the Flag Bearers. Can you kind of talk about, I forget where I read this, but you were telling me some statistics about the militia groups currently operating on the Texas-Mexico border right now, and I found them kind of to be pretty shocking. Would you mind sharing some of that context before we dive in?
Sure. I don't have the exact number, but the thing that kind of made my stomach drop a little bit was during the Obama presidency, right-wing domestic militia groups, they kind of grew by something ridiculous like 800%.
Wow.
And so there was an extreme reaction when Obama kind of came into office, as, you know, and whatever, whether it's right-wing media or whatever kind of sowed that dissension, there's just this unrelenting fear within the government that they're going to kind of, you know, that they're not doing what they need to either protect the borders, or that they're kind of more of an antagonist element as opposed to people, you know, a force for good within these kind of groups.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting is kind of that outlaw spirit feels very central to a lot of American dramas. Like, I feel like it dates back to Manifest Destiny, but I think you've done a really good job updating it and kind of contextualizing it and creating a modern political thriller. So I'm really excited to read it.
Thank you.
And thanks again for being here, Jeff. We're excited.
Happy to be here.
Guys, this is Civil Unrest, a drama pilot written by Jeff Perreca, and we're going to get into it right now. Teaser. Exterior rugged landscape night. Combat boots scuffle across the desert floor. A squad of heavily armed men in military fatigues sweep the area. Night vision point of view. The world's illuminated with a harsh green filter. Walkie chatter fills the air.
This is Bravo 7. No eyes on target. Over. This is Bravo 3. No eyes either. Over.
The man in goggles pans across the flat vista of shrubbery and sand. It's the middle of nowhere and nothing. Until movement. Dark shadows race in the distance.
Be advised, visuals confirmed. 2, maybe 3 targets.
Heavy breathing and thrashing of gear are all that's heard. The man in goggles sprints after the darkened silhouettes. End night vision point of view. The man in goggles, or John Cade, 30s, fires a warning shot.
Hands in the fucking air, now!
John rips the night vision gear from his face, his finger planted on the trigger. His eyes brim with intensity. He's rugged, dirty, and has a never-ending reservoir of anger.
Fucking twitch and you go in a hole. Comprende?
As he takes out some plastic wrist restraints, his prey is revealed. A Hispanic farmer shakes with fear. Focus on John's gear. It's not an official military uniform. The desert landscape is not Iraq or Afghanistan. Nope. We're in the good old US of A. Chiron, Texas-Mexico border. A branch cracks. John swings his AR-15 towards his 6. In a panic, the farmer attacks. John easily tosses him aside. The farmer's daughter, 7, and wife, 20s, run to his aid. They simmer John's rage, but only for a moment.
You shouldn't have come here.
He slaps the wrist restraints on the little girl. Exterior rugged landscape militia rendezvous night. A circle of ATVs surrounds dozens of captured immigrants. Hardened militia soldiers hover nearby. Lewis, 30s, a Hispanic militiaman, barks instructions in Spanish. John motions for his captives to sit. Touring the evening's hall is Colton Allister, 60s. A white, John Wayne-like cowboy hat rests on his head. Much like the Duke, when he speaks, people of all walks listen and follow. Currently, a cameraman and reporter hang on his every word.
Now, what sits before you is just a drop in the bucket. Now, imagine instead of 50 men, we were 500.
The reporter eyeballs the huddled mass of frightened souls, then motions for the cameraman to stop filming.
What the hell? You promised me the cartel. These people look like they are about to piss themselves.
It's impossible to tell the difference between monster and man, when man is the monster.
Some might say the only monsters here are the ones with the automatic weapons.
Oh, come on now. The government's too inept to help. Border Patrol's outnumbered. Cartel, ISIS, they're just waltzing into this damn country. If we flag bearers don't patrol here, who will?
I'm sorry, but no cartel, no story.
The cameraman loads up his gear, and John heads for Colton.
A bunch of fools. I show them a knife's pointed at their heart, and their solution is to turn around and show us their backs.
What now? I thought this time we were going to recruit more men.
Colton's at a loss. Just then, John spots Hawk, 30s, who has a thick wad of chew permanently planted in his mouth.
You're supposed to be with Bo.
That old cooter said I'd better taking a piss on a rattlesnake than trying to babysit him.
Didn't we agree we weren't just going to patrol on this on our own no more?
Well, you and I did.
John grows anxious and worried. Exterior rugged landscape riverbed night. Speaking of, meet Bo Cartwright, 60s, big-bellied, and big personality. Also a big chip on his shoulder. He leads a tattooed Hispanic, Arturo, 20s, back to camp.
You cartel? Don't feel like talking? That's fine. I got ways of making good boy be chatty.
Suddenly, there's a rustle in the bushes. Bo tenses and readies his weapon. When a fox pops out of the branches. Relieved, Bo relaxes, and Arturo seizes the moment. He leaps for Bo's gun, and a struggle ensues.
Get your damn hands off me!
They grapple on the ground, and neither can gain the upper hand. Just as Arturo turns the gun towards Bo, bang, bang, Colton and crew stiffen at the sound of gunshots. Bo sits on the ground, shaking his head as headlights engulf him. Colton, John, and several men descend on the scene, and so does that now pesky camera crew.
Had no choice. Bastard attacked me.
The cameraman captures the bloody scene.
Now turn off that damn camera.
Keep filming. Now we have a story.
John grabs the camera, and a minor scuffle occurs. The cameraman breaks free just long enough to film Arturo's last breath. His lifeless eyes stare coldly into frame as we smash to credits. End teaser. Act 1. Interior DHS Washington office, small briefing room day. The tiny and unimpressive conference room is empty except for two bored and dejected men. Abel Friedman, 30s, drags his finger across a long scar carved into his palm. He's a soft soul with a fierce intelligence. The fresh-faced Kerwin Ling, late 20s, announces,
Abel, the undersecretary just canceled the briefing again.
Kidding me? The flag bearers just murdered someone last night.
You know how it works. If they're not Muslim, they're not priority.
We both know it's that damn senator chairing the intelligence subcommittee. That jackass has made this department toxic.
Look on the bright side. If he makes us pull our undercover assets, I got a second cousin who's a medium. Could always get our intelligence from him.
Abel gathers his things and heads for the door.
Face it. Country sees these domestic terrorists as clowns. No one cares because no one's scared.
No one was scared of ISIS once either, remember?
We're analysts. What can we do?
Use the only weapon we can. Intelligence.
Interior old home, bedroom day. Furious knocking can't shake John Cade out of bed. He locks on a photo of a little girl, Cassie Cade, 7, and her mother, Bethany Cade, late 20s. He finally rises. His half-naked torso is littered with a tapestry of faded scars. They're old, a part of him now. Interior old home, living room day. The floorboards creak and moan as John opens the door and a firecracker of a woman, Susie Allister, 20s, races inside.
Took you long enough, Johnny.
Notices the house is in disarray.
Oh, sweet mercy. I told you 3 times that today's the open house.
She scurries around organizing everything the best she can.
Folks could be arriving any minute. Now, Daddy's expecting you at the farm. Whole town's already there, helping you boys get ready.
Get ready for what?
The protest. Bo was defending himself. Arresting him ain't right.
What about tonight's patrol?
I think Daddy feels y'all are needed more here than out there.
The notion does not sit well with him. Susie grabs a tiny children's guitar and John snaps.
Don't touch that.
Susie rises, understanding completely why he freaked out.
John, I miss Beth and Cassie too. I understand why you're selling. And I did agree to help, but ain't no one buying this whole place.
John handles the guitar as if it's a precious artifact.
Why not wait? Fix up the barn like you and Beth were planning.
He remains silent over that suggestion.
Can't imagine what growing up without a home was like. But this place is your home now. Well, a good home is part of the family, and John and Kate, you never struck me as one to give up on family.
Yeah, watch me.
Exterior Colton's farm day. It's America's heartland. Think corn stalks, grazing cattle, maybe even a windmill. It's also the flag bearers' headquarters. John snags a bud from a cooler, and he weaves through a crowd of families making protest signs on benches. The tobacco-chewing hawk watches Lewis, the Hispanic militiaman, douse himself with suntan lotion.
What? Can't get any browner. If I get any browner, one of these carbones probably shoot me next.
Hawk shrugs. He has a point. The men salute their beers at John's arrival.
Johnny, come on, man. What you think of my handiwork?
Hawk holds up his poster. John struggles to make it out.
The government's a bag of... Are those supposed to be cucumbers?
What? No, come on, man. Hell no. They're dicks. See? Government's a big bag of dicks. Come on.
John and Lewis both tilt their heads in an attempt to make out this poor man's Picasso.
Why are they so crooked, Pendejo?
Well, hell, some dicks are crooked. Come on, Louis, tell him, Johnny, some dicks are crooked. Come on, tell him.
This ain't a self-portrait.
I'm telling y'all, it's a thing. If you get...
The men laugh except for Hawk. He's just, well, concerned.
So, what's this I hear we're on patrol tonight?
The men grow quiet. There's a mixture of shared fear and respect held for John.
You should talk to Colton.
John nods and heads for the old man in the white cowboy hat.
Guess you're starting over.
Guess you are, too.
Colton, sitting there with Trish, 8, and inspects her sign.
Are we supposed to hate them?
Hate who, honey?
Mexicans?
Oh.
It's just there's this girl in class, Maria, and she's Mexican, but real nice, and we play jump rope together sometime.
Oh, darling, it ain't about hating anybody. It's just... come here now. How did you feel if someone came into your home, messed it up really good, and then hurt your mommy and your daddy?
I wouldn't like it.
Okay, now see, all we're doing here is protecting our home.
So I don't have to hate her?
No, of course not. But it might be best if you stop playing with her, okay?
Once that wholesome advice is over with, John walks up.
Saw your daughter. Said we weren't going on patrol tonight.
Yeah, we need everybody at the jail showing their support for Bo.
If we don't go, means no one's out to patrol.
It's just one night, Johnny.
I suppose this is the night that all them cartel bastards try and cross over.
Son, you know we are desperate for manpower. Now, if we're smart about this situation, our cause might finally get the attention it deserves.
This protest about supporting Bo or ourselves?
Well, now, why not both? This could be our best chance at recruiting more men.
My fight's on the border. I'm going to grab a bite at Grady's, telling him who feel like doing their damn duty to meet me there tonight.
With that, John downs his beer and walks off.
Now, you want to fight, Johnny? Or do you want to win?
John refuses to turn back and give an answer. Interior, Washington, D.C. lofts, hallway, night. Ding! Elevator doors part, and a nervous Abel takes a deep breath. Then he steps out of the elevator. He's greeted by 10 Secret Service agents at attention in the hallway. Interior, Washington, D.C. lofts, apartment, night. This is one hell of a bachelor pad, a relic of an interior decorator's taste from the 90s. 5 men of great importance play poker. Abel's presence unnerves them. A Secret Service agent whispers into the ear of Senator David Riggs, 60s, an old-school politician.
I need to speak with you, Senator.
Abel's offered a chair, and the Supreme Court Justice is pissed.
Outside of the men in this room and that hallway, no one in the world knows this game exists. So how in the holy hell do you?
Relax, Arnold. Don't you know who this is? That's Caroline's son. My apologies, I'm not her stepson. Abel here is an analyst, just like her.
Temper's cool. That name carries weight amongst these heavies, though it temporarily dampens Abel's assuredness.
Because your mother allowed us to take so very much of her money in this very room, I believe you've earned the right to sit in that chair. Of course, you're going to have to buy in.
Abel flings whatever cash he has on the table.
That'll be enough for one hand.
The judge notices a faint scar on Abel's neck. It's the kind one gets from a hanging. Abel pushes his collar up, hiding the disfigurement. The cards get dealt, and Abel's got pocket jacks.
Not a fan of what I do, are you, Senator?
Well, I am a fan of protecting this great land of ours.
Yet you want to pull every undercover asset currently embedded within domestic terrorist cells.
You know what? I am merely a vessel for the will of my constituents. In their eyes, our resources should be spent on greater threats like Islamic extremists, not harassing decent, hard-working Americans.
After everyone checks and bets, the flop comes. 2 aces and a jack of spades.
It seems you came all this way just to lose your money.
Abel slides his phone to the senator. At first, Riggs merely glances at it. Soon, he can't tear his eyes away.
For the first time in a while, your seat's actually being contested. Latest polls show your opponent is surging. Did you see the piece in the Times? They called him this generation's JFK.
Okay, so what exactly am I looking at here?
6 more years in office if you decide to use it.
The river comes, a jack of hearts. Everyone folds except for Riggs and Abel. They read each other, and this is the true game.
So this is the man Caroline's son has become. Willing to take down a good man to get what he wants.
Abel refuses to blink. The senator reveals his hand, full house. Abel has him beat, though, with 4 jacks, but instead, he tosses his cards away. After all, the pot isn't what he's after. After the longest of seconds, Senator Riggs smiles.
She would have been proud.
Interior Grady's bar night. John picks at his meal, still annoyed. He watches a video on his phone. There's no sound. It's of him and Cassie playing guitar together. At one point, his wife Beth joins them as well. He looks until he just can't anymore. His eyes flick to his palm. John has almost the exact same scar that Abel has. A rancher leads a handful of Hispanic workers to some tables, and then the rancher saddles up to the bar.
6 cold ones, Terry.
That familiar anger bubbles within John.
Those men, they got papers to be here?
In this bar?
No, this country, asshole.
Listen, Prim, don't mean no harm. Just relaxing after a long day.
Not here.
Ain't your place to make such a call.
John rises. Despite being severely outsized by the rancher, he stands his ground.
I blame you as much as I blame them.
The rancher puts a hand on John. He will not get that hand back in one piece. Crack! John breaks it in one motion. The rancher cries out and throws several wild swings, and John avoids them with ease, then takes him apart piece by piece. Finally, a few patrons peel John off of him. Interior Del Rio, Texas, local jail lobby night. Deputy Hayden Fryer, 40s, waters some plants while on the phone with his wife.
It'll be a bit, sweetheart. Sheriff's out on a call.
Just then, he freezes, and his attention shifts to exterior Del Rio, Texas, local jail, Front Street night. 4 pickup trucks skid to a stop. Dozens of armed flag bearers pour out onto the street. Interior Del Rio, Texas, local jail, lobby night. Hayden doesn't like the look of this.
I gotta go, honey. We got trouble out here.
Interior Del Rio, Texas, local jail, Front Street night. Colton, Lewis, and Hawk lead a mix of men and townsfolk in passionate chants as the cops pour pour outside, the volatility in the air grows ever more toxic. Hayden leads a handful of deputies towards their protests. Boos and other obscenities are hurled at them.
Free Bo! Free Bo! Free Bo!
A flag bearer gets in Hayden's face.
Get back.
You're a disgrace, son. Arresting your own kind like you did.
I said get back.
Hayden lightly pushes the flag bearer, and the flag bearer shoves him back. This sets off an explosion of violence. Hayden beats and stomps the flag bearer into submission, and Hayden's baton cuts toward the flag bearer's head when the frame freezes. Interior DHS Washington office, hallway night. Kerwin and Abel hustle down the hallway. The footage of the fight we just witnessed is displayed on Kerwin's tablet.
Who has this footage?
Just all major news networks and anyone who's on Facebook, Twitter, or, the internet.
Call a meeting.
You know they won't show.
They will when you tell them the next Ferguson is about to go down. Only this time the protesters are better armed than the cops.
Exterior Grady's bar parking lot. A sheriff's vehicle sits parked out front. The back seat is currently occupied by a handcuffed John. He watches Sheriff Clara Rivera, 40s, interview witnesses. Clara's strong, commanding, and impossible to intimidate. She questions the Mexican workers in Spanish, and they barely look at her. Then she tries the bartender, to no avail. John smiles as she handcuffs him.
Seems like no one feels like talking, Mr. Cade. The man you attacked is in pressing charges.
Like I said, this is the most understanding, Sheriff.
Oh, you might scare these people, but you flag bearers so much as jaywalk, I'll happily arrest each and every one of you.
John steps toward her. John steps towards her, but Clara holds her ground. He lowers his shirt and reveals a branding tattoo. Burned into his flesh is an American flag wrapped around a serpent.
You look at the symbol and you see what? Criminals? Folks in this town, however, they see protectors.
If that was true, they wouldn't have elected to give me this badge.
You got that badge because your kind swooped in here like a bunch of locusts and overtook this town. Not for long.
Tell me, when you're on the border being our so-called protector and holding a little girl at gunpoint, do you ever think of your daughter?
Off John as a flicker of doubt runs through him. Interior DHS office, main briefing room night. Unlike Abel's last meeting, this one's located in a room twice the size and completely packed. Abel presents photos of the flag bearers, the protests, and the outcry on social media.
Now, because the deputies of Del Rio decided to use a flag bearer for a punching bag, the entire country is obsessing over these protests. 3%ers, Oath Keepers, even the Aryan Brotherhood are all flocking to Texas.
Various heads of intelligence departments murmur over this. One department head interjects.
Are we really worried about a bunch of rednecks with shotguns?
We spend our days here obsessing over the idea of terrorists coming into our country and killing American citizens. Well, guess what? They're already here. We've seen an 800% rise in militia groups. There's been hundreds of attacks in the last 6 years, all by people who praise Jesus, not Allah, before pulling the trigger. I'm not here to warn you about an imminent attack. I'm telling you we're under attack.
Finally, Undersecretary Lopez, 50s, speaks. He's wrinkly, gray-haired, and packs a commanding presence.
Well, that's not how the damn Freedom Caucus on the Hill sees it. They just say that we're targeting farmers and blue-collar Americans, and then they threaten to defund us.
Unless we show them their true nature.
And how would we do that?
We use our undercover asset to set up a sting. Get them to cross a line and alienate themselves from the rest of the country.
Even more grumbles. Lopez confers with a few associates.
All right, give us a minute.
No one moves.
Come on, clear the room.
That gets people moving. Soon, it's just Abel and Lopez.
You know, I've never understood why these groups hate us so much.
Delusion, misplaced anger, lack of education. Guess in the end, we see the world we want to see.
Your mother said those same things to me once.
She got that one from Dad.
How is Noah? I heard he got remarried, had another kid.
This question grates Abel, and Lopez can see this.
You know, your mother had this ability to get powerful men to follow her will, not their own. I see you do too.
Sir, I'm not sure how...
Look, I got a call from Senator David Riggs. He had a change of heart. Wants to leave your undercover asset in place. It's very convenient, considering your proposed plan.
Sir, if you believe that I had
2 years ago, you were a rising star in the International Terrorism Division. Then, all of a sudden, you transferred to the domestic side. I don't know how else to say it, the basement of intelligence.
Our offices are actually on the second floor.
Now, since then, you've been virtually obsessed with the flag bearers. Until a few hours ago, we're small potatoes, and, my friend, I'd like to know why.
Abel rubs the old scar on his hand.
Just because you're in pain doesn't give you the right to make others suffer.
And that's all that this is about.
Yes, sir. Look, Look, send me to Texas. I'll run the undercover sting from there and provide local authorities with intelligence.
Lopez studies him, trying to read his body language until...
All right, by next week, I want the flag bearers to be nothing more than a distant memory.
Abel lights up.
So you're saying...
That you should go pack your bags, my friend. You are going to Texas.
End Act 1. Act 2. Interior, exterior, SUV, Texas highway, day. There's not much of a view, just flat land and withering bones of small town life. His driver points out...
We're almost there.
You mind if I change? I hate how the air on a plane just sticks to you.
Abel takes off his shirt, revealing his torso is also littered with a mural of old scars, just like John. The SUV drives into chaos. Exterior Del Rio, Texas local jail day. Throngs of protesters shout and chant. Dozens of police officers stand on guard, dressed in military tactical gear. The air is filled with tension, anger, and bad intentions. The SUV fights its way through the charged-up crowd, and Abel takes all of it in. In the distance, his eyes lock on John Cade. For whatever reason, seeing John has a deep effect on him. Colton Allister holds court with a group of reporters. Luis, the Hispanic militiaman, stands at his hip, and John and Huck are also nearby.
Now, we've got the world's mightiest military, yet the deep state within our own government is content with allowing criminals, rapists, and terrorists to simply stroll into our country. It's like having the best home security money can buy and then leaving all the doors and windows wide open.
Ain't about race. Di mi familia from Puerto Rico, but I was born here. I'm an American, and the flag bearers are my hermanos. We fight because we both want to keep America safe.
John checks his watch, then turns to leave, and Colton follows.
I sure wish you'd stay.
You all don't need me here.
Of course we need you, Johnny. Men respect you. And I ain't another man on this earth I'd want watching my six, so please stay, son.
He puts his arm around him. It's very fatherly.
Sorry, my place is out there.
Colton knows not to push him, so he lets him go. Across the street, a different impromptu press conference is being held. This site is filled with Hispanics and various people of color. Marcus, 40s, stares into a news camera. He's articulate and speaks with raw, unchecked passion.
Fact. Immigrants are less likely to commit a crime than native-born citizens. The flag bearers claim to be defending our country. And I ask all of you, from who?
Off to the side, the sheriff, Clara, watches Marcus. She notices a young Hispanic girl admiring her uniform. The young girl's captivated by Clara's stature. She salutes Clara, who returns the gesture, making the young girl's day.
Arturo came to be with his family. He was a father, not a killer. This is what happens when we listen to fear over reason. First, liberties are lost. Soon after, the lives of the innocent follow.
Cut. The reporters move on to the next story. Marcus spots Clara. They speak in Spanish with an intimacy that one can only have when they have a deep history with one another.
Marcus, your people need to stay on their side of the barrier.
Your people? You already forgotten they're your people too?
Clara instinctively glances at the young girl.
I'm not having this argument again.
Why not go harass the flag bearers? Is it because you know they don't see the badge? They only see the brown?
They see it just fine. Do you? Because you keep talking to me like I'm still your wife.
My apologies, Sheriff. Heard a flag bearer beat up some farmer last night, yet walked free. Tell me, why are they above the law?
I will promise you exactly what I promised them. The moment they commit a crime, I'll happily throw all their racist asses behind bars.
Interior, Del Rio, Texas, local jail, back hallway, day. Colton marches up to a very nervous trooper in his 20s.
I want to see Bo.
Can't. Sheriff would have my head.
Colton eyeballs him. After a few seconds, the trooper wilts.
Oh, okay. But just 5 minutes.
Interior, Del Rio, Texas, local jail, side holding cell, day. There sits a bored Bo. He rises at the sight of his friend Colton.
I recall a time when I was the one doing the standing in front of the bars, and you were the one behind them.
Johnny Cash concert in what, 88? I might have had a few too many.
Any word on what judge I got?
Judge Mills, I believe.
That liberal bitch is gonna hang me by my balls. If she denies my bail and sends me to county, I'm a dead man. About 100 spick gangsters there who'd happily put me down.
I'm handling it. Having the governor over tomorrow for a chat. He and that judge go way back.
Listen to you. Thinking any of that hogwash matters?
Bo, it's just how the game is played.
Game's rigged, my friend.
You prefer what? We go to war with the whole damn government?
Listen, we are already at war.
I need to ask you something, Bo. That boy you shot, Did he really attack you first?
You questioning my word?
It seems to me, this right here, it seems like this what you always wanted.
And it seems to me you were the one who invited the damn camera crew. Look, you want to play politician and talk tough for the cameras, have at it. But I haven't forgotten why we founded the flag bearers in the first place.
Well, neither have I. But I understand how this country works.
No, you accept how this country works. As long as there's air in my 2 lungs, I aim to change that.
Off the two of them, frustrated that the other can't see their point, cut to Interior Del Rio, Texas local jail, Rivera's office, day. Aboard Abel waits for Clara until she enters.
Freeman, right? They told me you were coming.
Sheriff, not here to step on any toes, just provide intelligence.
Happy to have the help.
Glad to hear that. On that note, I suggest getting rid of the SWAT team and have your officers in uniforms, not tactical gear.
So much for not stepping on any toes. You did see how much firepower the protesters have.
I did. But right now, every major news source is playing the video of your deputy rearranging a protester's face on loop. The flag bearers look like the victims, and you and your men look like some occupying military army.
You came all this way to help with our popularity?
Things are in motion that will put an end to all of this very soon, but I'm gonna need you to trust me.
What things?
It's classified.
So I'm supposed to trust you, but you don't trust me.
All due respect, ma'am, our intelligence suggests that many in your precinct are sympathetic to the flag bearers, could even be aiding them.
What intel? Oh, or let me guess, it's classified.
In this case, I think you need to see it. Drone photos of the flag bearers compound. They had a little get-together a few months back. 9 officers from this precinct attended. With all due respect, can you even trust your own men?
That stings, Clara.
You don't have many people on your side, but I am. Together we can put an end to the flag bearers.
Keeping me in the dark hardly feels like we're on the same side.
You don't want to get rid of the military gear? Fine. But at least put the deputy from last night's incident on leave. It can be paid leave, but show the country that you're in control here.
That deputy is a good man, and you want me to throw him under the bus?
I want you to lose today so we can win tomorrow.
Clara contemplates his offer. Exterior Old Home Night. An exhausted John Cade pulls into his driveway. He notices a man cloaked in shadow sitting on the porch. John flicks his AR-15 safety off, then cautiously exits the truck.
Can I help you, mister?
The man steps toward him. John assumes a firing position until the truck's headlights illuminate the man's face. A startled John instantly recognizes him. It's Abel. Memory flash, exterior woods years ago. Feet clad in dirty Converses, jerk and flail in the air. A young boy holds on to them, steadies them, props the feet on his shoulders, and his face grimaces as a large stick wallops his rib cage. End memory flash.
Jesus Christ, Abe?
Hello, John.
Why are you here?
Been meaning to visit, especially after what happened to...
His words trail off, unsure of how to bring up John's family.
What matters is I'm here now, because I'm worried about you.
After all these years, now you're worried about me.
Always worried, but now there's something I can actually do about it.
Abel hands him a manila file folder, and John peeks inside and immediately grows agitated.
What is this?
He notices Abel's badge.
Jesus Christ almighty, you with the feds?
It's Abel's turn to grow quiet.
You? The kid who was afraid to throw a punch in a fight?
It wasn't that I was afraid, just knew back then in that awful place it only made things worse.
Never thought that far ahead.
Read it. Aggravated assault, drug possession, attempted rape. Thought you should know that who these brothers of yours really are.
Yeah, I see. And do the people you work for know all about this? About what we went through as kids?
No one knows about any of that. Except you.
You think because we got history, I'm going to snitch on my friends?
I'm not asking you to snitch, just asking you to read the file.
Abe, cut the bullshit, man. Why are you really here?
You saved my life once, John. I'm here to return the favor.
Interior Del Rio, Texas local jail. Clara's office, night. Slam. Deputy Hayden Fryer pounds his fists on Clara's desk. The sheriff stays firm.
Christ, Sheriff, you really suspended me?
I'm sorry, but I need to get in front of the situation before it becomes any more volatile.
Sharon and I had you over for dinner last week. I'm not the only friend you got here.
Deputy, my decision's final.
He tosses his gun and badge on her desk, then storms out, leaving a guilt-ridden Clara to herself. Exterior Del Rio, Texas local jail, parking lot day. Hayden gets in his truck and takes off. He nearly runs over a few protesters, and he never notices the black SUV following him. Exterior empty road day. It's desolate. No other cars in sight. Hayden's truck rumbles and idle at a stoplight until Bam! He's violently rear-ended. 4 men in ski masks drag a semi-conscious Hayden into a nearby ditch, and they pin him down to the ground and rip open his shirt. A masked attacker holds a glowing, hot branding iron.
You put one of ours in the hospital. Consider us even.
The sizzle of flesh burning and Hayden's cries fill the air. They leave him bruised and burned. Seared into Hayden's chest is the flag bearer's insignia. End Act 2. Act 3. Exterior empty road day. Police, EMTs, and crime scene techs all are here, all wanting to help, but more just stand around. Abel hangs in the back, observing Clara, who's with Hayden, until she heads for her car.
Did you see any faces? Recognize a voice?
Of course not. They're dumb, not stupid.
You think it was the flag bearers?
Damn right I do. Those bastards branded him like an animal.
Sheriff, I understand why you're upset, but without any physical evidence, what can you do?
I'll tell you what. I'm going to go harass every judge I know until I get a warrant.
Please, look, I have a plan
Fuck
here.
your plan. I made a promise that the moment they broke just one law, I'd arrest them.
Abel sighs. This woman is not backing down. They both get inside her patrol car, and she's a bit taken aback by this.
What? Told you I was on your side. Plus, my morning's wide open.
Clara remains skeptical. Still, they drive off together. Exterior Bo's Ranch, picnic tables a day. The men surround a steaming cauldron of chili. The firecracker trying to sell John's house earlier, Susie Allister, stirs it methodically. Hawk sneaks up and tries to steal a taste. Whack! She fends him off with a wooden spoon.
Don't make me hurt you, Hawk.
Listen, girl, you threatened to spank me with that thing. Where do I sign up?
Oh, hush it now. How do you think it's going over there?
They turn their attention to Colton and John, who are meeting with a dignified man in a very well-made suit. Governor Horlock, 50s. Both stiffen as the 3 men get closer.
Now, Governor, you understand what would happen to Bo if he were to be sent to county.
I do, but the whole country's gone nuts over this whole thing. Frankly, I shouldn't even be here.
Funny how we didn't even mind funny how you didn't mind being here when we were throwing you that big old fundraiser last year.
Now, Johnny, Governor Horlock is our friend, and he's a good man. I trust he's going to do the right thing, which is why I continue to implore my friends on the NRA board to endorse him.
The governor understands that threat loud and clear.
I'll talk to the judge.
Good.
No promises.
All right, now you must try my daughter Susie's homemade chili. Why, I do believe it is the second best in Texas.
Second best.
Now, your mother would spin in her grave if I didn't say hers was first, baby.
The men dig in, John remains off to the side, and Susie approaches him, goes over this tenderly.
Ain't no bites on the home still. I'll try another open house soon.
Thank you. You help me like you are. It means a lot, Susie.
Their eyes lock, but only for a moment. Maybe it's affection, maybe it's pity. Either way, something is shared between them, until John sees 6 cop cars quickly approaching.
Colton, we got company.
What the hell is this?
A few men instinctively go for their guns, and Colton stops that.
Oh, now, easy, boys. Let's just see what they want.
Horlock's security detail ushers him to the waiting SUV. Abel and Clara exit her patrol car. He hangs back and watches the governor's retreat with great interest. Clara marches up to Colton, and several officers back her up.
We have a warrant to search this property.
Search it for what?
One of my deputies was attacked last night.
This news unnerves John. He looks to Colton, who refuses to meet his gaze.
I assure you, no one here had any part in that.
She charges past him. Hawk and Colton stay at her side, but not John. He sees Abel hanging back by Clara's vehicle.
What are you doing here?
You read that file yet?
Yeah, I did. All people should know everyone's got their scars.
Listen to me, John. There is no future here. You need to leave.
And go where?
Come back to D.C. with me.
John was not expecting that. Abel's nervous, feeling exposed. Exterior Colton's farm, barn day. As the doors open, the flag bearers and the authorities discover Luis, the Hispanic militiaman, by his lonesome.
Luis, what you doing?
I had to make a call. What's going on?
Oh, never mind now, then. Head out front now.
A plainclothes detective approaches. He's bagged a branding iron, just like Hayden's attackers used.
Sheriff, take a look at this. Hey, now wait a second. That's only used to initiate new members.
You sure about that?
Colton looks anything but sure. Abel and John try to appear casual as they talk.
Look, I can't just leave. These men are my brothers.
So was I once. They brutally attacked a sheriff's deputy last night. That's already on top of murder. Are you even fighting for the same things anymore?
That lands with John. Two militiamen approach, and John notices and covers his tracks by getting in Abel's face.
Piece of government shit. You got no right being here.
His show crescendos with him spitting at Abel's feet. John walks off in a huff, drawing the two militiamen with him.
Don't you all worry about these pigs. They're just leaving.
Interior, exterior, Clara's patrol car, highway day. Abel holds up the evidence bag with the branding iron.
It'll take the state's crime lab months to pull any prints or DNA.
I'm fully aware of how slow the wheels of justice turn.
Of course, the boys at DHS owe me a favor. One phone call, I can get the results back to you in a few weeks.
And what's this phone call going to cost me?
Abel smiles.
You want me to get rid of SWAT and the tactical gear. And get it done.
Exterior, Bo's Ranch, front gate day. The militiamen clean up the remnants of the chili cookout. Colton, John, Hawk, and Luis huddle together.
Bunch of pita putas. Bo wouldn't have let this happen.
But Bo ain't here, is he? Say them fuckers come back. Now what?
No one's arresting me, I tell you that much.
Several men grunt in agreement.
Well, should we go to war then? With what, 50 men armed with pistols and rifles?
Don't have to be like that, Hawk. What about that Chico you served with?
He's legit. Supports the cause. He can get us some real firepower. Ain't no winning that way. Now look, I'm going to call the governor and I'm going to make sure he didn't get spooked. And come tomorrow, Bo will be free.
What if he did get spooked? Say they come back and arrest us and send us to county with Bo.
Well, then we're all going to be dead, man.
More unrest from the men. Colton turns to John.
Johnny, you're awful quiet. Where are you in all this?
Everyone stops and turns, very interested in John's thoughts.
Suppose my first question is this. Did someone here attack that deputy?
No one confesses, but no one denies it.
When I first became one of y'all, the mission was clear. To protect the country. Keep those who shouldn't be here. Keep those who shouldn't be here, who could do harm to the other ones we love, out. Simple, pure. Now we're killing boys and attacking our own law?
Who said we even attack that deputy? It could all be bullshit.
Could be. Or it could be that we're the ones who really are.
And what you saying there, son?
Soon after the bail hearing tomorrow, it's done, one way or the other. We get back to the real fight, out there.
Mi padre used to say, el menudo macuno. It means you must meet roughness with roughness.
Well, I see it, boys. We got two fronts in this war. Ain't no going back to how it used to be.
Off John, questioning the men at his side. Interior Del Rio, Texas local jail hallway. Abel cradles his iPhone while reading a text on a flip phone.
You seeing this?
Interior DHS office, analysis cube farm day. Kerwin is also looking at a text on an identical flip phone, intercut between the two.
The flag bearers didn't take the bait. Now what?
Colton's not gonna take the bait. Bo is the radical one. We need him in play.
He's sort of behind bars, remember?
Abel clocks a TV that's showing footage of Governor Harloff giving a press conference.
We get the governor to help.
You would need some pretty damn good leverage for that to happen.
How about sort of okay leverage mixed with a shit ton of bluffing?
Yeah, that could work too.
Interior Governor's Mansion office night. A disheveled Governor Harloff sips on a whiskey while going over some paperwork. Abel's shown inside by an aide.
Sorry to keep you waiting. You're the fellow from Homeland Security?
Yes, sir. I actually saw you earlier today at Colton Allister's farm.
Oh, I know Colton a bit. Was trying to see if I could help ease some of the tension over this situation.
I don't think so. I think Mr. Allister was using his ties to the NRA as a way to strong-arm you. They want you to influence Bo Cartwright's bail hearing, right?
Any politeness between the two immediately disappears.
Don't worry. So do I. Get the judge to set a reasonable bail for Bo.
Why the hell would I do that?
If you don't, the FBI will announce a very public investigation into your administration. Every email, memo, conversations in the pisser, it'll all get leaked to the press. Maybe they find something, maybe they don't. Of course, if you don't have anything to hide, then this is an empty threat. But if you do, then you better pick up that phone right now, sir, and make the fucking call.
Harloff remains motionless, contemplates, then concedes. A small victorious smile escapes from Abel. Exterior Del Rio Courthouse, streets day. Mobs of people on both sides stand quietly. John, Colton, and the rest of the militia remain on edge. There's no SWAT. All officers are dressed in their regular uniforms, and they are not happy about it. Luis stands off to the side, looking intensely at his phone, and Colton notices, his eyes narrowing with suspicion.
Everything all right?
Yeah, it's nothing.
Luis walks off, still buried in his phone.
Keep an eye on Luis.
Something wrong?
Just a feeling, that's all.
Now both men scrutinize his every move and facial tic. Interior Del Rio Courthouse main hallway day. Abel's eyes are planted on his phone. Nearby, Clara and Marcus are in a heated discussion.
They attacked one of your deputies. I thought you promised to arrest them if they committed a crime.
I'm close to making an arrest. As soon as I have all the evidence, I'll put them away. Please just let me do my job.
Do not forget how you got that job. We, your people, voted for you to make things better, not worse.
He eases up. It's clear that the stress is getting to her.
Look, I'm sorry. I trust you're going to do the right thing, Clara, okay?
Their eyes meet. Long buried emotions are allowed to bubble to the surface, but just for a few fleeting moments. They part and she heads for Abel. The annoyed DA fires out of the courthouse.
Well, the judge ignored my recommendation and put his bail at $50,000. He's going to make that in minutes.
Clara finds this disturbing. Abel, not so much.
Why do you look so happy?
Can't start a fire without a spark.
You did this? I'm trying to put these bastards in jail, and you just put the most dangerous one among them on the streets?
Loose today, remember?
She does, but she doesn't like it one bit. Exterior Del Rio Courthouse streets day. Bo walks out a free man. Colton and John are at his side. He's mobbed by fellow flag bearers and a cheering crowd.
My, oh my. Not sure what to say, but thank you, cowboys. You
His voice drifts as a chorus of boos drown him out. A mob of mostly Hispanics led by Marcus jeer and scream obscenities.
Murderer! Racist! We want justice! We want justice!
This pisses off Bo's supporters. Each mob heads for the other. The police, who are not in riot gear, stand woefully unprepared in the middle of all of it. Interior Del Rio Courthouse front entrance day. Clara knows where this is headed, and so does Abel.
Give SWAT and riot the go, now.
Exterior Del Rio Courthouse streets day. A single rock hurtles through the air until it smacks violently into a Bo supporter's face. Blood pours, emotions snap, and chaos ensues. Marcus is getting the worst of the two militiamen until wham, wham! Clara puts them both on the ground where they stay.
You okay? You gotta go, Marcus, go.
He does as he's told, and a silent thank you is shared. John remains attached to Colton, dismantling any who try to attack them when he sees Abel swerving through the melee of fists and elbows. He peels a flag bearer off of a much smaller Hispanic protester. They wrestle back and forth until plunge. Abel grimaces, and there's a knife sticking out of his gut. He crumbles, and blood pours from his stomach. Blackness engulfs him when John tries to find him.
Abe? Abe! Someone help me!
But his cries are drowned out by the havoc in the streets. End of Act 3. Act 4. Interior Del Rio, hospital room day. It's overrun with patients. A young physician puts the finishing touches on some stitches for Abel.
Good news. Knife missed all the important stuff. Bad news. It'll probably leave a scar.
Abel's smock is open just enough to see a litany of scars littered across his body. He winces.
I was hoping to get another added to my collection. How'd I get here?
Him.
The young physician motions to a pacing John, who's in the Del Rio hospital hallway day. He peers into Abel's room, but before he can enter, a hand taps his shoulder. It's Susie Allister.
Oh, thank God, Johnny. You're okay.
She collapses in his arms.
We weren't doing nothing wrong. Had every right to be there. Those damn animals started it.
I know.
How come you're not at the farm with Daddy? Who's in that room?
She goes to look, and John blocks her view, trying to play it off.
Some out-of-towner came to support our cause, got knifed.
More militiamen hover nearby John. Their prying eyes are the last thing he needs.
Look, cops are all over here. Y'all need to get back to the farm, and I'll meet you there.
You ain't coming?
Just want to say my goodbyes is all.
Their eyes lock again, then the group leaves. Once gone, interior Del Rio hospital room, day. John approaches Abel.
Didn't feel like introducing me?
Maybe next time.
Thank you for bringing me here.
Crazy to think. Best, worst moments of my life are right here, within these walls.
I didn't know about what happened until I saw your file. I should have been here for you.
We stopped being there for each other long ago. Besides, flag bearers were there for me.
The flag bearers are using you.
They saved me. Gave me something other than the anger to have in this world.
I understand how you must feel, but it was a car accident. Driver could have been anybody.
Except he wasn't. Man had no right to be in this country, let alone behind that wheel.
So what? Take out your anger on a bunch of people who had nothing to do with it? Come on, John. These folks come here just wanting a chance at a better life.
I wish to God this world was as simple and pure as you want it to be, Abe.
We see the world we want to see, John.
Yeah, well, starting to wonder if the flag bearers see the world the way I do.
So leave. Come with me.
It feels like John's just about to agree when the young physician returns with a needle.
Mr. Friedman, need you to rest for a few hours. Then you'll be free to go. This will help with the pain.
Before he can protest, she injects him. The medicine does work fast, and his eyelids become very heavy.
John, don't go back there.
Abel drifts into a slumber. Ding, ding. A cell phone chirps. John ignores it, but ding, ding. A flip phone and iPhone rest on a table nearby. The flip phone keeps buzzing, so John takes a peek. His eyes grow wide. He reads more texts, first shocked, then enraged. Now he looks at Abel completely differently. Then he bolts from the room. Exterior, Colton's ranch, outskirts, day. Tat, tat, tat. Lewis shreds some trees with some gnarly military-grade weaponry. Hawk, Bo, and a few other men watch with childlike glee. There's a nearby duffel bag filled with similar weapons.
Take a photo. Want to make this my new profile pic.
As Hawk frames him just right, a truck spewing dirt skids to a sudden stop.
What the?
Colton and John hop out.
What the hell is this?
John wastes no time. He marches right over to Luis and pistol whips him.
Fuck, John, what are you doing?
Where is it, you son of a bitch?
John violently searches for something, then grabs his cell.
No, wait!
His pleas are ignored. John brings up his messages, then grows confused. There's just some selfie sexies of black women.
It's just a girl I'm seeing, okay? But she's black, was afraid to tell you guys. Can someone please share what in the holy hell is going on here?
Who brought you these guns? Who?
Everyone turns to Hawk. At first he just smiles, then he goes for his gun. But John's on him. He quickly disarms him, then searches for his phone. He finds a small flip phone. He tosses it to Colton, and after reading a few texts, he hands it to Bo.
I can explain, y'all. I don't think you can.
Blinded with rage, Bo jams his gun deep into Hawk's gut.
You lying ATF motherfucker.
Easy, Bo. You pull that trigger, they win.
They started this. I think it's high time we finish it.
Listen, goddammit, you kill them, they will arrest every last one of us. Is that what you want?
Who said I'm gonna let them arrest us?
Please, y'all, I got two boys.
John moves his gun off Hawk and points it at Bo.
Put it down. This is not who we are. Can't you all see that we are not executioners?
The next few seconds seem like an eternity. Most of the men want to pull the trigger, and finally, Bo relents.
Point a gun at me again, Johnny. I'll kill you where you stand.
You get. You use them feet of yours, and you remember who spared you.
He takes off running towards a distant road, but the hate and anger within Bo builds and builds. Interior Del Rio, Texas, local jail, Clara's office, night. Clara clutches a file report and reads it over and over. Abel knocks at the door, and he moves gingerly.
You look worse than I do.
Evidence came back. The branding iron confiscated at Bo's ranch wasn't a match.
You already got prints and DNA?
Didn't need them. It's 1.5 inches too small. We have no evidence linking them to the attack now.
It doesn't matter.
Holding up his flip phone that John saw earlier.
We have an undercover asset within the flag bearers. Just got word that Bo Cartwright has agreed to a massive illegal firearms deal.
So that's your plan?
Tomorrow we take down the whole organization in one swoop. Already coordinated everything with ATF and DHS.
Jesus.
Like I said, lose today to win tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's here.
Can I ask you something? Why do you want to take down the flag bearers so bad?
This question sits. He rubs the scar on his palm, then...
Because I never liked bullies.
The moment gets interrupted by a parade of vibrating phones. Both of their faces fall when they read the message. Exterior woods, day. A few patrol cars divert traffic. Clara and Abel walk towards a small collection of trees. Then, they freeze. Hanging from a tree is Hawk's lifeless body. A name is scrolled across his chest. Benedict Arnold. Exterior small home night. A plainclothes Clara knocks on the door. She's distraught, unnerved, and Marcus opens the door.
Clara? What happened?
I'm tired of fighting and losing. The flag bearers, my men, you.
You never lost me.
This uniform's too heavy.
She struggles to say more, but Marcus instantly understands. He grabs her hand, pulls her close. Their lips meet, clothes are abandoned, and they stumble their way into his home. Exterior Bo's Ranch front entrance night. A speeding sedan skids to a stop. 4 armed militiamen draw their weapons, and Abel fires out of the car.
John! I want to talk to John Cade.
The men are startled. They approach him with great caution, and Luis trains his gun on Abel.
Vámonos, puto, right now.
Before things can get out of hand, John appears.
You killed him?
What the hell are you talking about?
My undercover agent, you and your fucked up friends killed him. He had a family, John.
The men grow tense. Colton, Bo, and Susie approach.
Johnny, what's going on here?
Everyone's very suspicious, hands close to their triggers.
Tell them who I am. Tell them.
He's, we grew up together.
Something changes in Colton. His face falls.
In that place?
John nods, barely still haunted by his past. Memory flash. Exterior woods, years ago. Young Abel swings violently from a noose. A group of older boys have strung him up from a willow tree. Young John grabs his sneakers, places them on his shoulders so that Abel can breathe, and a few boys beat John with a large stick. But he refuses to budge. His ribs bruise and crack. Still, he remains stubbornly planted like a mighty oak tree. End memory flash.
All right, now, boys, let's go.
Now wait one damn.
I said let's go. This is Johnny's business. It's not ours.
One by one, the militiamen leave.
The hell is wrong with you? Colton let your boy walk. I saw it.
Bullshit, you're a fucking liar.
I'm a liar? What about you? You tried to set us up. That's why you wanted me to leave.
I was trying to protect you. Do you honestly think Cassie and Beth are proud of what you've become?
Wham! John wallops Abel in the jaw.
How the fuck would you know? You never even met them.
You're right. Us losing touch, that's on me. It's just the shit we went through. We were raised in hell, John. So for only one of us to get adopted, it wasn't fair.
Neither knows what to say. Abel stands and opens up his shirt, revealing his collection of scars.
Can't you see you're becoming the very thing we hated?
Abel holds up his palm, forcing John to do the same. It's the same scar.
This was the only scar we ever chose. Nothing can and will ever change that.
Exterior woods day, memory flash. Young John and Abel stand side by side in a field. They each take turns slicing their palms wide open with a knife. Then they clasp their blood-drenched hands together. End memory flash.
They're coming for you. I can't stop that. Please, come with me.
John struggles with this decision until...
It's too late. Go home, Abe.
End Act 4. Act 5, exterior highway morning. A caravan of tinted SUVs, police cruisers, and SWAT trucks tear down the empty road. Exterior Colton's farm morning. The sun's just making its appearance. Bo loads a bunch of guns, and nearly dozens of intense men do the same. Colton whisks Bo to the side.
Hey, we can still fix this.
Ain't about fixing it. Now either you're with us or not.
Now, that's not your call, Bo. I'm in charge.
No, friend. You're not.
Like a sledgehammer to the gut, this realization hits Colton. One look at everyone's face, and he knows who they're now behind. Exterior gravel road morning. The land is more desolate. The convoy picks up speed. Their destination is close. Exterior Colton's farm front lawn day. Men set up barricades, adorn Kevlar vests, fill clips with bullets, and Susie Allister loads a shotgun. Colton marches towards her, takes off his John Wayne cowboy hat, and sets it on her head.
Darling, you need to go. I want you to have this, Susie Bear. Know that I...
Oh, hush it, Daddy. You've been preparing me for this my whole life. I ain't going nowhere.
She hands him his hat back and gives him a peck on the cheek. Colton smiles, then sees John observing the scene.
I ain't gonna ask about last night. All I'm gonna ask is, are you with us?
Why are you staying? This here was the last thing you wanted.
Well, these boys are my family. You can't ever give up on family.
So John's been told. He nods in agreement, then he gears up. Interior, exterior, Clara's SUV, gravel road morning. The ranch comes into view. Clara's with a somber Abel.
I'm sorry about your agent. At least you'll get to see some justice today.
A dejected Abel doesn't find much comfort in that notion. Exterior Bo's ranch, front gate morning. Several trucks have been repositioned as barriers. Militiamen use them as cover, and a lead officer as well as 24 SWAT guys stop about 15 feet out. He holds up a piece of paper.
Colton Allister and Bo Cartwright. We have an arrest warrant for you and your men.
Bo pokes his head out from behind a tractor.
Son, look around. Ain't no one being arrested today.
Colton spots a pool of media forming in the distance. Helicopters fly overhead. Now, the nation's eyes are upon them. The lead officer hesitates. He checks his perimeter, makes note of the militiamen watching his every move.
All right, cuff him.
A couple of SWAT members take a step forward. Wrong move. The militiamen raise their guns.
Put your weapons down.
Everyone's shouting and freaking out. Colton signs the cross as Bo breaks out in a huge smile and tat, 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 tat. He fires on the SWAT officers and a hail of bullets follow. Clara grabs a shotgun and gets out of the vehicle.
Wait, where are you?
Tat, tat, tat. Flying lead peppers the rear windshield. Abel looks behind him as a squad of militiamen who were concealed by thick bushes flank the authorities.
Jesus Christ.
Abel drops to the floor, completely fucking terrified. Colton and John race to take cover behind the truck as SWAT descends on the property.
You all right?
We need to get to Susie.
John searches for her, and he observes the flanking unit keeping the rear of the authorities away. Only it's then when we notice that Abel is caught in the crossfire. Shit. Should he help his friend? Dozens of rounds whip by his head, and yet he sits still, torn, confused.
Lewis, double back. Reinforce our 6.
Negative, Johnny. We're following Bo's orders now.
Luis and his crew encircle Clara and Abel, and he leaves Colton's side and sprints away.
Johnny, where are you going?
He races from truck to truck, barely avoiding being cut down. Abel fires blindly from the back seat, and Clara blasts a militiaman with her shotgun.
Friedman, move on my count. 1.
Bam! A bullet rams into her shoulder and she falls. Abel pulls her into the SUV as blood pours over his hands. John races for his friend. Colton can't keep up, and Bo lays down some cover fire for John.
Call off Lewis and his men.
You nuts! We got them surrounded.
Just call them off now.
The next decision isn't easy, but John aims his gun at Bo.
You lost your damn mind. What I say would happen if you pointed your weapon at me again?
A standoff takes place. Colton sees it and races for them. Neither moves an inch until John's eyes grow wide. He fires his weapon before Bo can move. The bullet zooms past Bo's ear and lands directly in the throat of a SWAT member who had Bo dead to rights. John races off, but Bo isn't in a forgiving mood. He sets his sight for John, readying for the kill shot. Colton sees what's about to happen, and bam, he bashes his gun across Bo, dropping him.
The hell you doing? We're on the same side, damn it.
Only Colton's exposed. A faceless officer targets him. He squeezes his trigger and pop! The bullet lands between his eyes, and Colton falls dead. Bo fires blindly, pulling his fallen friend to his side. Abel takes heavy fire. He grabs Clara's sidearm and points it out of the half-open door, fear coursing through him. The militiamen encircle the SUV, ready to finish off all who remain. Abel sees a combat boot enter his eye line, and just a few feet more, he tugs in the trigger, takes one last breath, then John just makes it.
Lewis, Bo's comms are out. He needs you all back there. Move!
The men hesitate, then jog off. John walks toward the SUV. All Abel sees is another combat boot. He prepares to fire.
Abe?
John, that you?
Abel lowers his gun, beyond relieved, but Clara uses what little strength's left to raise her pistol. John is fucked.
Sheriff, lower your gun.
Not happening.
Clara, trust me.
You lost your mind?
Please. Please!
With great hesitation, Abel turns his gun
Put it down. I will shoot you.
on Clara. She looks deep into Abel's eyes, then finally relents. As John turns to leave, Abel rushes after him.
Where are you going?
You were right. No one chose us. We chose each other. Nothing's ever going to change that, but my place is with them now. Goodbye, Abe.
All he can do is watch as John jogs off. He and his fellow flag bearers retreat into the distance. Exterior Bo's Ranch day. Smoke drifts through the air. Dozens of bodies remain forever still on the war-torn land. Officers, militiamen, each side has suffered great loss. Exterior old home driveway night. A hand dumps gasoline everywhere. A match is struck. Then, at the last possible second, it's dropped. Whoosh! An eruption of flames consumes the entire house. Exterior old home porch night. John emerges from the hissing fire. He climbs into his truck and takes one last look back. Then he can't get away fast enough. Interior, mainstream media news set day. A stoic anchor, 50s, looks into the camera. A graphic behind him reads, Terror in Texas.
Earlier today, a right-wing militia group known as the Flag Bearers shot and killed several government agents. Many are calling this the worst act of domestic terrorism in our country's history.
Interior studio day. Two well-dressed podcast hosts scream into a microphone.
You know what? It's been 5 fucking days, and there's no sign of these flag bearers. Now imagine if they were Muslim. The whole goddamn country would be shut down looking for them.
It makes you wonder.
Yep.
How much does the White House want to find them? After all, Most of their base actually supports those scumbags.
Interior small home bedroom day. Clara is with Marcus, asleep in bed, her arms in a sling, and a reporter from Univision is on the TV. There's footage of a massive protest surrounding the governor's mansion. In Spanish, calls for action have reached a fever pitch, as many are questioning why this isn't the government's doing more to find the flag bearers. Marcus carefully crawls away, then tiptoes out of the room. Interior small home, garage day. He sneaks towards a storage area, then digs through a box. Inside is the branding iron used on the attack of Deputy Hayden Fryer, as well as the ski masks. Many in the Hispanic community are wondering, what will it take to see justice in this country? He looks towards Clara, unsure, conflicted. Exterior, Texas wild, Bo's cabin, night. A moss-covered cabin is the only sign of humanity. Bo takes out some keys and opens the front door. Luis fires up the radio. A conservative personality is screaming.
Why were the feds even there? Ask yourself. Why were they so armed? I'll tell you, they wanted a reason to lock those boys up. Anyone threatening to take the power away from the deep state is a target. Far as I'm concerned, these flag bearers are my heroes. I have half a mind to grab a shotgun and join them myself.
Bo leads a group of men into an innocuous patch of dirt. He digs some of it up, revealing an underground storage hole. They lift the doors, then peer into the blackness. A light is struck, and it reveals an armory of dusty weapons and explosives.
Never forget, blood is the only barrier to tyranny.
John and Susie sit together. She's holding Colton's cowboy hat, and John consoles a mourning Susie. Bo approaches.
Susie, I promise you, where we're going to make them pay. Aren't we, John?
A hand is offered. This time, John doesn't hesitate. The two men shake, temporarily united.
Damn right.
Interior cafe, day. Kerwin's lost in his smartphone. He's focused on a YouTube video of several men wearing masks. The leader has a rifle.
We're leading the brave who dared to stand up to our fascist government, and we are not alone.
He forwards it to Abel's email and writes, "What now?" Interior morning show, day. Three pundits argue back and forth.
Well, breaking news, Texas Governor Richard Harloff has authorized the National Guard to aid in the search for the flag bearers. So, how do we all feel about this?
There's a clip package of Governor Harloff making an announcement at the podium.
It's a disgrace. He buckled to the pressure from the liberal.
No, think about this. Think about this. Right now, a military operation against U.S. citizens has been deployed on American soil. Now, that should terrify every patriot to their core.
Clara awakes, feels for Marcus, but discovers that she's alone.
You know what? Here's what scares me, okay? When each side has their own set of facts.
Kerwin
right?
watches more and more YouTube videos of people pledging allegiance to the flag bearers.
You know what? Truth is deemed optional.
John feels the scare of his hand, feels the scar on his hand, and he wills himself to remain sturdy.
And even those we love, they start to feel like strangers.
Abel also grazes the scar on his hand, and he's dejected.
Then we and this whole country, well, we might be lost for good.
Exterior Texas wild gravel road night. There's a massive convoy of military vehicles. Countless soldiers pour out and meet the heavily armed Texas National Guard. They form ranks and descend into the wilderness. Colonel Adams, 50s, cruelly efficient, heads for Abel.
I understand you'll be helping to lead the Joint Task Force.
That's correct, Colonel.
Well, don't worry. We're going to hunt down every single one of them traitors. They don't stand a chance.
I know.
Only he doesn't know, because this is just the beginning. Fade out. Woo. Jeff, this is such a sophisticated script, and what I love is it is just, especially as of recently, bursting with so much urgency. Can you talk about kind of why you decided to take on this specific topic? Just narrative aside, why militia groups on the Texas-Mexico border?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. It started with I saw this episode of Vice on HBO.
Yeah.
It was about 2 years ago, and it terrified me.
Yeah.
So it kind of piqued my interest, and I kept kind of looking into the subject. And then usually, kind of, I approach a lot of my material with those words of what if, and kind of if you take a step back and just see what's going on and see just how entrenched everyone's kind of becoming, and especially these groups, the thought was, well, what if all these domestic terrorist groups found an issue that could rally them all together and actually did go about and start a war with the government.
Yeah.
That they keep promising and saying is coming. Well, what if that happened? What would that look like? How would we actually, what steps would need to be taken for us to get to a second civil war, which sounds very dire, unfortunately, but I just kind of asked myself those questions, and that was kind of what led me to kind of using this as an incident, as the first bullet, if you will, in what would be that war.
Well, what's fascinating is I think 4 years ago, this might have seemed very speculative and almost like science fiction in a sense, but now you can feel the energy of this country. You know, like I think you've written something pretty vital, and I think there's something kind of prophetic about what you've written. I mean, hopefully not, but I applaud you for taking on this issue and making it as stakesy as you do. I guess connected to that, how do you structure, like this could have been, you know, this kind of heady political drama or almost documentary in a sense, but you do a good job of injecting, you know, narrative urgency into the story. Can you talk about like what was important for you on a narrative level?
I think the biggest thing and also the hardest thing was not making it a I had a manager once say this old quote of, you know, if you want to send a message, send it Western Union. So like entertainment, right, has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And so what I didn't want to do was I didn't want it to be this preachy piece that felt like it was coming from the, you know, quote unquote liberal coast of Hollywood and looking down on any side. And so I really wanted to make sure that the flag bearers and the militia group, you're probably not going to agree with them. Some people might, you know, but I wanted to make sure that you could at least kind of see from their perspective, maybe why they see the world the way they see it, and why Abel sees the world the way he sees it. And I wanted to just, you know, maybe not get the far right, but you know, the middle. And you know, I'm from Michigan. I'm from the Midwest, and have like, you know, people like my parents and people from the Midwest. They could sit down and watch this show and not feel they could, you know, just kind of, you know, relate to the characters.
Right.
But the same thing with people on the coast. You know, it's just, you know, I think the best thing in entertainment or as a writer you can do is hold up a mirror as opposed to holding up a microphone.
Whoa, I'm writing that down.
That's a bumper sticker.
Nice. It should be, I think.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some specific choices? I think you're talking about creating sympathetic characters no matter what side they're on. Can you talk about that a bit more specifically in the context of this script?
Sure. So like take someone like John. That's, you know, you want people to not necessarily root for him at times, but understand him. You know, he's kind of that tragic character, and so I through several evolutions of the script, you know, it was really about what turned him, what made him, what would that inciting incident be that turned him? Where does that hate come from? Because you know, I am a huge believer in. You know, it's not so much you're born a certain way. It's just, you know, you're made a certain way through your life experiences. So take whatever. I think that's the only way to write characters too, is to really go back into their backstory. So for me, having him finally have this family, this wife and daughter, the one thing he never had because he was, you know, an orphan, and then have that taken from him, but not taken from. I really wanted it to be, you know, like a car accident, like just. Tragic stuff like that happens in life, and it just happened to be an undocumented, you know, person behind that wheel. It could have been anyone. It could have happened, but I think you can kind of see, really, you could at least understand to a certain degree how that might, you know, twist someone, and how if you kind of just let that anger kind of. If you just hold on to that anger, how your views are going to get twisted, and how you could kind of go down the path and be susceptible to groups like flag bearers, because really those groups prey on people that are angry.
Yeah.
Whether that anger is justified or not is a different argument. But they feed on that anger, and a lot of politics do today too. They feed on that anger, and they kind of twist it for their own purposes. And so he's
sounds familiar.
But you know, it's you know. As long as you or I could, you know, I obviously have the exact opposite politics of them, but I can understand how he might go down that path. You know, I can understand. That to me is interesting. Writing and it was really hard to do. I think it took several drafts, and you know, I went on all the message boards. I listened to right-wing radio.
Yeah.
I just kind of tried to get those voices, and a lot of it sounds like if I were to like verbatim write what they say, it sounds like caricature-y.
Right.
It sounds cartoony.
It's wild, isn't it?
So, it's trying to find a balance of like trying to respect their point of view as much as I can, but not
Cartoonize it.
Yeah. You don't want mustache twirling villains.
Right. Well, that's such a good point, and I actually think it's important work because obviously when the election happened, everyone was shocked. But what it revealed was that there was a huge subgroup of people who, whether it's right or wrong, weren't really being represented in the media. And I think, every political station, cable news, network news was shocked by what happened. But when you look back in the internet, for example, where you're doing this research or these characters you've written, there's millions of them in our country. And I just think it's kind of important work you're doing. And I think sometimes I'm a writer as well. I think it's sort of the job of writers is sometimes to do this, to show us multifaceted shades of people. I think you've done a really good job with this in the pilot. One thing I really like that you do, too, is you position this domestic terrorism against foreign terrorism. And you make multiple references to ISIS and the Islamic threat. Can you talk about why that choice? Because I think it really informs the script in a very interesting way.
I mean, the interesting thing to me is there is such fear in this country when it comes to Islamic terrorism. And then you have an incident like what sadly just happened in Las Vegas, and you see those same people kind of bend over backwards to defend it, which is crazy to me. And also, I ended up that last montage got changed several times. In the first script, or before the election, it was a female president kind of giving a speech at the end. Had to change that. And so but what I did, and sadly just happened with Charlottesville and then Las Vegas is, I feel like nowadays any incident like that gets automatically politicalized, and depending on what side you're on, the heroes and the villains will change.
Yeah.
And so I figured, like, if an incident like this were to happen, the first thing that comes out is, the left are going to have their narrative and the right's going to have their narrative, and depending on what side you're on, you're going to listen to that narrative, and it kind of all feeds back into that theme of we see the world we want to see.
Especially right now, I think.
Yeah.
It's never been more self-interpreted.
Yeah, I wish I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have a nicer country than a relevant script. But,
yeah. Any questions from you guys? I've got more, but I don't want to hog the conversation.
Well, I just wanted, what you were saying earlier, we punish according to perceived threat, not actual threat. And we very easily perceive that they're over there versus our people over here. I do feel like what you did, I think you said this, alluded to this earlier, you made, if you make all the characters just people fulfilling their own wants, then you don't have mustache twirling villains. You have people pursuing their wants, and then the story develops out of that, which I think you did, which is great. And nobody's a true villain. There's nothing cheap about it, which is awesome. The only guys you can look at that are the people that are trying to make points off this, but there's nobody like, I'm a terrible guy. I think what scares me about your script is I can really see this happening. And there's two questions I got for you. Are any of these incidents based on anything that's actually happened?
So the big thing was the Bundy standoff. I don't know if you guys remember this a few years ago, but this almost played out as is, minus the bullets.
Wow.
So basically there was a standoff with this rancher. It was all over like kind of grazing rights. I can't remember where, but somewhere in kind of, the heartland. And the federal government was basically had a standoff with all these, quote-unquote cowboys. All these militia groups came out, and they were fully armed, and
they took a building, didn't they? Take over a government building,
and that was another instance. So it's starting to pop up more and more, and all it takes is one shaky trigger hand and one bullet, and then I think we're much closer to the abyss than we actually realize, sadly.
Right.
I look at this and I feel like there is there's an order of operations that could happen that could really lead down this path. If Trump does get impeached in the next, if there is a turnover in the House and the Senate, and Trump does get impeached, he's not going away. And people like this, I think, would go through the roof. I think these kinds of militia groups, in a weird way, are waiting for something like that to happen.
Yeah, and what's also fascinating is I just read this article, I think it was on The Guardian. that while they're on kind of the president's side at the moment, if you think they were saying, all it takes is a few of those promises, a wall not getting built.
Yep.
They inherently don't trust the government, and a couple of those promises aren't met, or he kind of doesn't go through with a few of the things. They're going to be off his side and back in the anti-government world. Just because Trump was elected, they're not going away. There's a real dialogue that I don't have any answers, but there's a real dialogue that kind of needs to happen of where this anger and what are the roots of the anger and division?
Right.
What conversations need to be happened? And I think that scene with Colton in the beginning with that little girl, which was really hard to kind of nail, of what degree of racism am I trying to put early in the script. But when she asked him, am I supposed to hate these people? And he's like, no, but you probably shouldn't play with them. Racism, you're not born into it, you're learned. It's something you learn. It's something that it's instilled in you. Kids by nature are as innocent as they can come. So, how do you break that cycle? And I don't think humanity has ever figured that out, but I think the more we can just put that question out there, then hopefully more and more people could start breaking it.
And I also applaud you for writing something that doesn't feed into the feedback loop that we all live in, that we're either on one side or another side, and then we all live in our own echo chamber, where I could see this as a show that's taken to by both sides, because the characters are just so relatable, and that would be the first step in actually starting a conversation.
Yeah.
Among all of us, which I think is the problem we're facing now, is that we all live in our own echo chamber, and if it's not news that reaffirms what we believe, we're not going to believe it.
Yeah. It's harder and harder to people take challenge personally when their point of views are challenged, as opposed to an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Because and again, I come from the Midwest. I come from a very conservative family. I'm about as progressive as it comes. But my kind of boilerplate taste is, could I give the script to my parents and see if they'd still talk to me? They, for the most part, do. So I was able. So I have a lot of friends. Like I am a little more, I don't want to say sympathetic, but I can see that point of view a little more. So it's a little easier for me to write.
I'm from Cleveland, and I have a very similar litmus test of even though I disagree, with my dad, for example, I respect him a lot, and it's giving me an interesting context for kind of filtering, interpreting the world, because I disagree with him, but it does give me a sympathetic voice to understand a different take.
Sure. Yeah.
I think what I also love about this script is not only do you have this major theme of people who are protecting the country from foreign people. I'm trying to say this PC. But you also have this character Lewis, who's Puerto Rican, but he's also against Mexicans. He hates Mexicans. But then you also you touch on these issues that are huge, but not really explored in societal conversations, and then that he has a black girlfriend or a black girl that he's actually interested in, and how much that would upset the group of people that he's with. You touch on these little things, and I'm wondering if these themes are more explored in other episodes that you would write.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate. My fiance is Puerto Rican, and I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic, and so I gave them this script. And one of the first themes early on is you need more of a Hispanic point of view, and that's kind of where the Clara character came. And then one of them mentioned there's a lot of Hispanic militiamen that are on that side that served in the military, and they're not. So often in the media, it seems very cut and dry, black and white, that you're Hispanic, so you're going to be against Trump. But then when you look at it, I think in Florida or something, he's still got 35% of the Puerto Rican vote. He's still got people are not a monolith. People are full of contradictions. I think just the other day there was some guy that was a chapter of some white supremacist group kind of left it and came out and admitted that he was actually gay, and that it's just he's a walking contradiction.
Yeah.
And it's just that though is what's interesting to me when it comes to writing characters, is those contradictions. Those contradictions that we all have, because that's where usually the drama and the conflict and kind of the meat of a person and the meat of your story exists. So you have to get behind that surface which they project out, but that's what the news media only focuses on.
Well, I think adding that character in and like you said, going through this and exploring that input and having people say to you, no, man, there's more to this going on. There's a lot of Hispanic guys on that border that I think it really it challenges you as a writer to find out what the motivation really is, because it's very easy on the left coast to say, well, they're just a bunch of damn racist and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's not that simple. I mean, there are literally towns that have been, I don't want to say overrun because that's a term you use in the script, but there are towns that really have had their demographics wildly changed in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And if you go from a town that in the mid 80s was 95% white, and all of a sudden in 2015 is 85% Latino, a place, people did grow up in this place, and now they feel alienated in their own home. And so to ignore that is to ignore the motivations for a lot of these people, and that would make for a much cheaper script. And you didn't do that, which I think makes the piece work a lot better.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I would love to see more of this show. I just think you do such a good job. A pilot needs to close a couple doors, but open a lot more. And there's a lot of doors left open in this pilot. Where do you see it living? Do you have like an ideal network, or?
I mean, yeah, ideally, it would be kind of either a cable-based or even like kind of a Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be totally cool if it's primetime. But that primetime networks might be a little harder because I think there's a certain just edge that you would need to kind of instill in this so it doesn't feel too surface.
What's interesting, though, is like, if you've made a couple of changes, I could almost see this living on network.
Sure.
Because I look at like American Crime. I don't know if you watched that show.
Yeah.
Or even like Shots Fired, which was a show on Fox that I think could have been better. But I think what I really like about this script is that I do think you've done a good job of not necessarily writing. I think you've written a complicated, open-minded look at the border conflict, and it almost makes me want it to be this elegant primetime show, because they do happen. There are some dramas on primetime that I think are really, like The Good Wife is one that...
Yeah, that's great.
So I don't know. I would love to see this get picked up by like an ABC and air in the same block as American Crime or something like that.
I mean, for the record, I'm not picky. I'm pretty open, guys.
I would think, if a network is interested in purchase.
I would just love to tell more of it. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think nowadays too, your first instinct is always like cable or kind of one of those outlets. But yeah, no, there, anywhere that it's just you're willing to, just take a little bit of risk. It's harder and harder, especially after a Charlottesville, especially after kind of just the more political things get, the harder it is to kind of people are kind of they're so much more invested and spend so much more time in politics that when it comes down to the popcorn talk, they want more popcorn. And I understand that. It makes sense. I even get a little weary after my fifth podcast of the day on politics. So.
But smartly, as we've talked about, this isn't just a political propaganda script. It's a politically, the themes and undertones are obviously political, but it's a character piece first, which maybe that's the thesis of our conversation, right? Is successful storytelling has to start with complicated characters.
Yeah, it's a family drama, if you think about it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Not only literally with the brothers, but I kind of view the country as a family. We're forced to live together just like a family. We might not all like each other just like a family, but we have to find a way to coexist. We have to kind of find a way to respect each other and allow each other to kind of live as as free as we're supposed to be, as the Constitution kind of is set up to allow us to live.
Yeah, beautifully said. Any other thoughts or questions for our brilliant writer Jeff Perreca on his pilot, Civil Unrest?
That's also a bumper sticker.
I know that Andrew usually asks this question, but was this the first time that you've heard this read out loud?
With this many people, yeah. I've done a few with kind of like a smaller, kind of close-knit friends and stuff. But yeah, it was great. This is, as a writer, it's such a, I firmly believe just because you write fade out doesn't mean the end.
Yeah.
So you should, any chance you have a hearing yourself, making it better, until it's like edited and out the door every time. Like every story needs to constantly be honed, and so this is a great opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Is there anything that you would have changed or maybe reined in or?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like some dialogue and stuff now that I kind of will probably, it's always, as a writer, I think your instinct is to do a little more on the page, and then, and even more like, this is just a read through, when you actually see actors act it out, there's so much then you're like, oh, you can convey all that with that look, don't need this line, don't need this line. But your first audience as a writer is a reader, so you're kind of writing for the reader, and then when that hopefully gets picked up, then you have to adjust that material to then like, what works best for the screen.
It's when you have great actors, it's easier to trust them, but until you have them, it can be hard. That being said, have you thought at all about ideal casting for a show like this?
Yeah, I mean, so on the cover page,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And I don't know if even it's casting, but you know, in order, we talked earlier, this was a part of the ATX Television Festival. I did kind of a, it was a finalist for that, and we had to go and pitch it live. And so one of the things you had to do was do a pitch video. And so I basically, every time I went and saw like Sicario, Hell or High Water, all those Tyler Sheridan films, I was like, yes, this is the style, the template and stuff. So I kind of ripped a bunch of clips from there. So, you know, whether it's Chris Pine and stuff, like Chris Pine's, to me, it's more Chris Pine's character from Hell or High Water. That's John Cade. Like that, when I saw that movie, I'm like, that's who that's kind of that, just kind of everything about him. And then, you know, like someone for Abel, you know, why can't I think of who's
Jesse Williams?
no
Michael Irby.
It's,
Michael Irby.
Michael,
Yeah.
Irby.
yeah. I've been such a huge fan of his since
Ely.
Michael
Ely.
Ely. Yeah.
I was like, that's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan
Michael
of
Ely.
his since like I think it was actually 7 Pounds. I think he was like Will Smith's brother in it.
That's
And
right.
so old, very random
A deep cut.
reference there.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone, because I again like having, I think it's just an interesting conflict, especially when he comes to Texas, especially when he comes to a militia group. If his character is, you know, African American, and then like that's just a whole nother set of kind of issues and set of perspectives that, you know, the pilot would be like 2 hours if I tried to like work that in, but that gives great fodder down the road, especially coming off of Charlottesville. There would be like for the series just even more to explore.
Absolutely. I kind of pictured Rosario Dawson in the role of Clara.
I would
don't know if
love Rosario Dawson.
Yeah,
So
I'm a
good
big fan.
cast.
So yeah. Any other questions for Jeff before we make our way out, guys? No. Any questions for us, Jeff, before we make our way out?
Not so much a question, but just again a thank you. This was a great opportunity. It's fun. It's a fun way to spend my Friday morning this year.
Yeah.
Well, we have high hopes for this thing, and I think it sounds pretentious to call work important, I think, because we are just making TV. But I do think like this is an important work. And any opportunity to start conversations, especially in this current political climate, in a quote unquote entertaining way, I think is kind of a gift. So I really hope the best for this script, and we'll do our best to kind of push this thing along. That being said, do you have any other projects or anything else you'd like to promote right now? This is your chance.
I'm on Twitter at Perreca, Perreca. And you know, I finished. It's funny. After this, I had to do a palate cleanser, so I just finished another pilot, but it's a little more comedic.
Fun.
It's still kind of in the action comedy world, but like I said, I think I needed myself to do a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of good feedback on that. So I'm just kind of getting it out there, and it's kind of more of that Firefly meets like Walking Dead, but it kind of the big thing is it poses like what it's like to live in a world with monsters.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Another
Sounds
one
fun.
that's sadly relevant. Has more jokes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here. It's been really fun.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Guys, this has been the Unproduced Table Read here on the Popcorn Talk Network. Today we read Jeff Perreca's political drama, Civil Unrest. If you guys like today's episode, I think I would recommend episode 6 or 7, which is Company Town. I recommend this script a lot, but it's a script about 1890s America, kind of Gilded Age. It sounds boring when you describe it, but it's this really urgent script about kind of race and capitalism in a small town built around the railroad industry, and that's really good. So check that out. That's by Samantha Leventius. Also, guys, these scripts came to us heavily discounted from ARA Printing on Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank. Jeff, you should definitely go. They're the best print shop in town. They're unreasonably inexpensive, and they're very, very kind, and they're fast. And if you go with the promo code TABLEREAD, you'll get 10% off of your order. So again, that's ARA Printing in Burbank. And finally, guys, my name is Jeff Graham. If you want to find me online, you can do so at Jeffrey C. Graham. You can pitch me a script there. We've had some people do that and get on the show that way, so I'd love to connect with you. Also, for those of you who are watching, remember that we also have a podcast. If you'd like to go on iTunes and rate that podcast, that would be awesome. And we're always looking for feedback, so if you guys want to see more of a specific genre, whatever, let me know. You can reach me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham. And yeah, I have some amazing co-panelists who I'd love to see us out as well.
Sorry, my sneeze. Hi. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I am Timothy Michael. You can find me everywhere at I am Timothy Mike.
Thanks again for joining us, guys. Mike Kalinowski at Mike Kalinowski.
Nice to be with you guys. Joe Sanfilippo at Joe Flippo.
And I'm Steve Kaufman. You can find me on Twitter almost exclusively at Steve Kaufman. That's Kaufmann.
And once again, guys, our writer, Jeff Perreca, can be found at jperreca. Guys, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week. We're actually exciting. I'm going to tease it. We're reading a feature, and it's Halloween-themed. We're reading a horror feature next week, and it's really wonderful. So we'll see you then next week, 9 a.m. Thanks for being here, guys.
Bye, guys.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.